hardest parts for any single individual, right, is how do they start and where do they begin? How do I start off my journey as a trader, right? So what we've done in Caylum is try to create a framework for you as a trader to be able to have this process of having to replicate any single trade over and over and over again, right? So our framework here is rather simple. It's what we call the FTSR Framework. And basically it stands for F for fundamentals, T for technicals, S for sentiment, and R for risk management. So to start off, we usually tackle on fundamentals. And people often associate fundamentals as buying what we call value. Okay. And this misconception about value is the association behind being cheap and being value as similar, in which as a trader, we don't think of it as that way. There's always that understanding about value being relative, right? So cheap to you might not be cheap to me. Okay? So what's important is that when you're understanding value and what's being cheap, you should always associate to the goodness and the quality of the company that you're buying. Okay? And I'll tell you, great companies will always be trading at higher premiums. It doesn't make it expensive. It could actually mean it's still trading at a value. Then over time, as the company continues to grow, then you'll be able to realize and unlock its value. Right? So this is the misconception behind value and cheap that we're trying to disconnect. Okay? And underlyingly, how we view fundamentals is more about trying to understand how good that quality of that company is. It's because over time, we always understand that eventually it's going to come. Okay. Now, that's the first aspect when it comes to fundamentals. The second aspect is about technical analysis. Technical analysis in its essence is all about understanding human behavior, right? To us, it's not just about using charts as the means for buying and selling stocks, but it's more of an indicator for us to understand what people are feeling and thinking about that particular moment. In addition, technical analysis is also about understanding the demand and supply situation at any given point in time, right? So whenever you combine fundamentals, good quality companies, and you understand that people like it, ultimately the probability of winning or making that right trade every single time goes higher and higher. And that's what we're trying to achieve here behind fundamentals and technical analysis. So the last two is about sentiment in the middle, and the last one is about R, and it's called risk management. People often underestimate the importance of sentiment because fundamental and technical analysis is usually related to stock picking. Sentiment in general is about understanding market conditions. And you have to understand that when you're buying any single company, if it's not at the good time of the environment, most likely or not, you're going to be looking for those pieces of diamonds that are very difficult to find. It's very different when the entire movement is coinciding as the entire market is going up as well, right? I always tell people, the chances for you winning when the market is with you goes up tremendously, okay? There's actually a study done that if you look at the two drivers of any single company, it's about earnings and it's about liquidity, or what we call sentiment. And this is going to be further discussed in Jason's module about sentiment. And indirectly, you'll understand that 70% to 80% of a company's move is actually driven by liquidity and not driven by earnings. Okay? So I hope you guys put that into your system so that you understand how fundamentals, technicals will help you become better stock pickers and help you pick the right trade, while sentiment underlyingly will give you an overall broad understanding of what's happening to the entire economy and the market. Okay. Last but not the least is risk management, because whenever you're doing any single trade, the most important is how much you're willing to bet. And so when we talk about risk management, ultimately we always say it's the most important of the four in the FTSR framework. And the reason why it's simple is because we can speculate in all these different companies using fundamentals and technicals as our tools for picking stocks. But at the end of the day, we're not going to be 100% correct in all the trades that we're going to be doing, right? So what's important is that you understand the maximum amount of loss that you will encounter in every single transaction that you will do. So if you think about risk management, there's always two parts that we always take into consideration. So it's not only about the stock risk that you will encounter, but even understanding the risk of your portfolio as a whole that you need to protect. So what we'll talk about next is how those four pillars will translate into the entire module that we're going to be talking about, right?